Well, Freddie Blakiston was one of the greatest players, without doubt, to have played here at Franklin's Gardens. He was a great Saints player, he's a Saints captain in 1925, and he was also a great England international. And he came here as a school teacher in the 20s, but prior to that, he'd fought in the First World War, with great distinction as well. He was in the Royal Field Artillery, so he was a gunner. He was an officer who commanded a gun battery in the First World War. From 1916 he served on the Western Front, then he got shell-shocked, so he came out of the line, came back home for a little while, then he went to Salonika and Palestine, so he served in some really intense battlefields. In 1918 he found himself back in France. He was there from March for the German offensive, and then in September he was in Belgium at a place called Granoutre, where word came through to him that they needed ammunition up at the line. So he organised a column of horse-drawn carriages to take this ammunition up to the line. In broad daylight, they got to some crossroads, and the problem with that was they were very obvious to the Germans, and immediately they got there, they were bombs. The shells came down on this column, and it was hit. Horses were killed, men were killed. Now, bearing in mind, this is a man who'd suffered shell shock. His first instinct, you would think, would be to turn and run. That would be, oh, it's fight or flight, and if he had run, you would have understood it. But someone like Blakiston is made of sterner stuff than that. His instinct was to rescue men, clear the road. He went back and forth with his sergeant, carrying men, carrying ammunition boxes, out of that carnage, under constant shell fire. Unbelievable act of bravery to save the lives of these men, and, as importantly, to get the column through to the front line where the supplies were needed. Incredible act of bravery, and for that he was awarded the Military Cross.
So it was something Matt and myself, Matt Lee, the physio, came up with when Boydie took over. Actually, we wanted to add something to our pre-season programme that was a test of the lads' fitness, not necessarily their rugby ability. We found a story, the Freddie Blakiston story, of how he won his military cross back in the First World War, and we sort of twisted it to fit what we wanted and make something that was achievable for the lads. It was tough, it wasn't necessarily rugby, but they had to work hard for it. So it's not something we judge them harshly on and use it as a fitness test, but it is a test of their ability to dig in and just perform when they need to. We've done it at Castle Ashby for the first 5 years of running it, and the lads start in one of the fields. They have a 2.5k out and back run where they run through some of the grass fields, up the path, turn back round on the 1.25 mark, head back down the hill into the walled gardens at Ashby. Then they've got 2 kilometres of sandbag carrying, which was what we sort of very loosely tried to represent Blakiston's heroics and saving the bodies he did. And then they go back out on the run again. So overall it's 7k, and they finish just in front of the castle itself. So very poignant setting, very grand as the lads come through the line. Not that I'm sure many of them are looking ahead at the castle, they're just waiting for that finish line. For the mini team, it's your average time as a team. Yeah. So that's where the points are for that. For the individual, it is obviously the fastest time in both waves, and then the fastest time for position specific. Any questions? No question? Nope. Good. So if you can start here, we'll go on Kev 2 with the sacred money. undisputed Blakiston champion again.
Wow.
310 Alex Cole. Come on,
How do you do it? It's not necessarily the most rugby relevant challenge, but it's about that resilience. How hard can you dig in and push? And you know, rugby's for all different shapes and sizes, and people with different athletic abilities, and has some people shaving like minutes off their PBs and you know, putting themselves right to the limit. Yeah, it's about trying to foster that resilience amongst the group. And I mean, everyone, to be honest, no one really looks forward to it amongst the playing group because it's horrible, but it's a good feeling when you've done it and you've all done it together. So good for going into the season, I hope. I think it's special in Northampton that we have that history. You know, we look at Freddie Blakiston and the stuff he did in the war. It's just incredible. And we always have a little talk before we do this, and we have some of Freddie Blakiston's family come and present. And that just adds something special to it. It gives it sort of relevance and some meaning. And you kind of, we're not doing anything as hard as he had to do, but you're trying to live in that rich history that Saints have. And hopefully that just provides that little extra bit of motivation and sort of relevance to what we do. And it's a nice little drive for the players, I think, to be part of something larger.
We are Saintsmen, we're part of the Saints group, and we have this long history that we should celebrate with particular characters like Edgar Mobbs and Freddie Blakiston. Okay, so that we're part of that culture. We want people to do this challenge, and it is also not just about tradition but about resilience. And we're going to have loads of that, lads, this season. We're going to need that resilience in terms of when we go into the season. What I would say is I thought the effort today was outstanding. I thought everyone who did it pushed incredibly hard. And it's actually not about who wins or who comes second or who does the best time. It's about how hard did you go personally. And I was incredibly proud of the effort, and actually effort and resilience, lads, we have those two things in spades. We've seen that in the last 4.5 weeks. We've got to be better accuracy-wise. We've got to be better in terms of how we're going to play the game. But if we have those two things in the amount we showed today, we're going to be absolutely fine and we're going to be very successful.